Good evening, everybody. I'd like to welcome everybody to the July 14th, 2026 Board of Elections monthly meeting. I'd like to call the meeting to order. Ask everyone to please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, everybody. We have an agenda here this evening. Is there any additions or deletions to the agenda? Hearing none, can I have a motion to approve the agenda?
So moved.
I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
And then next is approval of the June 9th, 2026 meeting minutes. Those were all previously forwarded to us. Do I hear, or is there any additions or deletions to those minutes? I have a motion to approve the June 9th, 2026 minutes.
So moved.
I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All right, now we're on to public comments. We have a number of folks here for public. Any comment from the public? Yes, ma'am?
I'd like to read something I came across today from a post today. And it's a little bit long, so I'm going to try to be really fast, so I apologize. But Allison Riggs won her 2024 race by only 734 votes. And the results survived 2 recounts. Her Republican opponent then attempted to invalidate more than 60,000 ballots, including ballots cast by military and overseas voters, and kept the election uncertified for more than 6 months. Riggs was ultimately seated, but only after an extraordinary legal battle and federal court intervention. That was not merely a close election dispute, it was a blueprint. Lose the vote, challenge entire categories of voters, delay certification, and move the fight through friendly courts and keep searching for mechanisms to reverse the result. The danger does not begin or end at the voting machine. It runs through the entire process. Precinct officials, county election boards, state election boards, secretaries of state, legislators, judges, and ultimately the Supreme Court. In 2020, more than 30 local election officials around the country have already refused or threatened to certify the election back then. Election deniers are now running offices and directly having their votes and their voices heard in local elections. Infrastructure is another coordinated attack on election results. It is not a hypothetical. It is being assembled in public. So I bring this up because we know how important local elections are. We know all the hard work that these ladies and gentlemen do behind the scenes, what you guys do on the board. But you are our last stopping point. You are the voice for all of Union County constituents, every single one of us, including the ones overseas. So it's really important that you guys fight and advocate for every single vote. And I bring that up again because we got the budget that was over a year late. We got the budget and we know there were massive cuts. We know that Union County doesn't have the money to fund the discrepancies or what we're lacking in other places. We also know that the state is no longer publishing or printing off voter registration forms, that the local counties and local people have to print off their own. So please be aware that every little thing that they're doing is to disenfranchise all the voters. And your voice is to advocate for every single one of them. So today we're going to talk about the budget. We're going to also talk about early voting locations, Sunday voting. Again, Sunday voting is so very important. And I don't care what party you go to, everybody goes to church. And it is a tradition. It is something a lot of people take off on Sundays so they can go to church and they can vote. And so it's really important to remember that if you disenfranchise one vote because you don't feel that their vote matters, then you disenfranchise the whole process. So thank you so much for your time.
Thank you. Any other public comments? Thank you. At this time, I'd like to take the moment to recognize Ms. Angela Weaver. Ms. Weaver, I'd like to, on behalf of the board, like to thank you for your 28 years of service to the Union County Board of Elections. We have a nice plaque for you and some flowers for you. We do appreciate all of your service, the hours that you have put in, both volunteer and paid, but a lot of volunteer hours that you put in, not only here in the office, but also at the specific election precinct. So we do appreciate your efforts, your time. We hope you enjoy your retirement, and of course, are always welcome to come back and volunteer anytime you want. We're always looking for volunteers. But thank you so much on behalf of the board. Thank you. Certificate of appreciation presented to Angela Weaver, in grateful recognition of 28 years of dedicated service as a full-time and part-time employee to the Union County Board of Elections. Your commitment, hard work, and dedication have made a lasting contribution to our organization. We sincerely appreciate your years of faithful service and the positive impact you have made. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you. We're gonna have to get some photos here.
Yeah. Long time no see, y'all.
And if we can have the full board come on out, and take a photo.
Thank you, sweetheart.
All right, everybody look right here.
Okay. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you.
All right. On to our new business. Fiscal year 2027 budget update. Ms. Holloway.
Yes, I'd like to review the budget process and the changes that have been made. If you would allow me, I'd like to read my summary, and then if the board has questions, we'll answer questions.
Very good.
Board of Elections budget's divided into two programs, administration and elections. Our fiscal year runs from July 1st through June 30th. Unlike most other departments, the Board of Elections is on a 4-year cycle since the type and number of election varies by year and can include 1, 2, or even 3 elections, such as a primary, second primary, midterm general, presidential general, or municipal election. We previously reported to the board that the elections administration and elections program budgets for fiscal year 2027 were unchanged from our department's request, except for the exclusion of the enhancement request. The Budget and Grants Director emailed our proposed FY27 line item budget to our business manager on May 29th. Those same program totals were included in the proposed budget materials provided to the Board of Commissioners and posted on the county website. No additional reductions to our department were discussed during the budget workshops, public hearing, or budget adoption meeting. The FY27 budget was adopted by the Board of Commissioners on June 16th, and we did not receive notice of any changes for our department. On June 19th, after reviewing our department's adopted budget in the budget software system, Munis, our business manager emailed the Budget and Grants Director to ask whether an error occurred during the import process. The elections program budget reflected $200,000 less funding than the proposed FY27 budget, which was a 17.88% reduction. On June 23rd, the Budget and Grants Director responded by email stating that in an effort to balance the budget, the elections budget was reduced to match more of the actual spending. The Director of Elections met with the County Manager on July 7th, and he confirmed that the elections program budget had been reduced, but also confirmed that 2 of the 3 enhancement requests would be implemented. He stated, and later confirmed by email, that the requested vehicle would be purchased in fall of '26 using FY '26 rollover funds, and the reclassification request would be added to the county commissioner's July agenda, and if approved, would become effective in January of '27. On July 9th, the Director of Elections emailed the Budget and Grants Director asking for additional information, stating that after review of the munis reports for each fiscal year from 2016 through the present, staff was unable to identify data indicating that the budget reductions were based on actual spending in previous years. On July 10th, the Budget and Grants Director responded by email stating that the Budget Office made the reductions based on historical underspending in those line items and the projected overspending in the county's fuel budget. He stated that the reductions were made when the final projected overspending in the county's fuel budget was determined, and that $200,000 of election program funds were reallocated to the county's fuel budget. The adopted county budget for FY '27 is $664,310,307, and the funding for the Board of Elections is less than 0.5% of the budget. Although $200,000 may represent a relatively small share of the county's overall funding, it represents a significant reduction to our election budget. 3 items were cut. First, printing and office supplies was reduced by 50%. Charges to this account include printed ballots for election day precincts, paper ballot stock for early voting and provisional ballots, training manuals for precinct officials, absentee voting by mail envelopes and instructions, test decks for voting equipment, copy paper, and toner. Budget reports from 2016 to date show that actual spending for printing and office supplies for each of those years was well over the amount allocated for this fiscal year. Salaries and wages for temporary and part-time staff was reduced by 16.52%. This budget code is paid for early voting officials and judges, election day judges and officials, student assistants, Matt's team, part-time office staff, and seasonal office staff for absentee clerical, equipment delivery, coordinators, and rovers. Tools and supplies was reduced by 69.64%. These funds were intended for replacement of 35 Oki printers used with the Verity prints for early voting and provisional ballots. The Oki printers have been discontinued, and any remaining available toner is in short supply. The budget included funds to begin phase 1 of the replacement process for these end-of-service printers. With these cuts, we will only be able to replace 9 printers this fiscal year. We are presenting this information to the board so the members can plan for early voting and election day with all relevant facts available. And Juanita and I will try to answer any questions that you may have.
Any questions for Ms. Holloway?
Well, I have a lot of questions.
That's a lot to digest.
Yes.
Really.
Well, let's take a little bit at a time here. I guess what was actually approved by the county commissioners for our budget?
We have asked for the adopted budget. The budget ordinance that's on the county website does not list the detail by department. The Fiscal Control Act says that that should be included. We were told by the budget department that the full adopted budget will not be available till September. So we don't know the actual amount legally allocated to our department from the Board of Commissioners. We only know what the budget department has included in our budget software.
So is that normal to wait until September to post?
I don't recall it being this late before, but we've never had this situation before. We've been asked during the budget process to reduce our budget, say 1 year, it was 3%, all departments in the county were asked, and we did that. This year, there was no request, it was just to basically maintain, your spending or your request for this fiscal year. So I have not seen this happen in the past.
Has, did anybody reach out prior to staff finding it in the software?
We had the proposed budget was emailed to us on May 29th, and those totals were the same totals that were listed on the website even after the budget was adopted by the commissioners. Our department totals were the same. The proposed budget was still posted. We were not notified of any changes at all. It was just discovered when we were reviewing our budget reports.
There's a lot in here. So we don't know what the county commissioners actually approved by department at this point.
I asked when this happened, what was the timeline of when the cuts were made, if it was before the public hearing, after. There wasn't a certain answer to that, and I also asked if all the departments were cut, which departments were cut, if they were cut the same amount as ours, and that information was not available.
We're gonna have a hard time holding elections without ballots.
Yeah, how can you cut out the cost of printing ballots? I mean,
Do we
you have
think
to print them.
Do we think that the director was aware of what he was cutting? Or was he being arbitrary or playing 3D chess, trying to force cuts elsewhere? I mean, I'm appalled.
We had a budget meeting scheduled during the budget process. It was canceled, not on our part, never rescheduled, and we were never given the opportunity for a discussion of the budget. We were not asked anything about this. We were just, like I
So
said,
it
we
was
just
just an
discovered.
arbitrary,
Discovered it had been cut.
It's gonna be real hard to have an election without ballots. That's all I'm saying. Especially those special ballots with the extra special barcodes that make them secure and so they can't be.
Yeah, and we do have 23 contests. There's 3 constitutional amendments, and then there will be a countywide referendum for the jail too on the ballot this election.
How many pages are you projecting for that?
We're looking at probably 8.5 by 14 front and back. And it'll still be just front and back, one page.
Okay.
But the
And those
14
come
inch-
from the specific vendor with the barcode so that they can't be.
Yes, we use the ballot paper that's a special, it's a certain weight. It has a corner cut and it has a watermark on it where if you hold it up, you can see that it's official ballot paper. Just regular copy paper does not have that. So it's official ballot paper. And then the coding for our ballots, like you said, has those tick lines, barcodes, where a ballot can only be inserted in the scanner once. You can't like make copies and insert ballot more than once, and only read it one time.
Have we heard from any other departments regarding any of their budget review, seeing cuts?
I have not.
Okay, shouldn't somebody make the person who made this decision aware of what? I'm assuming we can't move money around from one line item to another within our budget. That's,
Well, I think you can.
We
Like I
can.
said.
Yes, we can. But when I made the budget, when I was reviewing all the numbers, I assigned a certain amount to each line item according to what I was expecting to pay in the new fiscal year. For example, our delivery for the equipment, how much the renewal for the software was going to be, how much we would need for any kind of repairs for our voting equipment. So, I mean, we were told we didn't have to reduce our budget. We could keep it how we had it. So all I did was reallocate where I felt we were going to need the funds.
so we need that, everything we asked for.
We do, yes.
Was Chris, shouldn't somebody let the man who made the cuts know what he cut? I mean, if we have to reduce our expenses, then we have to. If we're gonna have to reduce expenses, then we're gonna have to. But it shouldn't necessarily be in ballots. I mean, in envelopes.
No, and I guess Ms. Holloway, there was no conversation with the manager's office about what could be cut or what could be shaved.
No, there was no discussion beforehand. When I met with the county manager, I pointed out the 3 items that were cut. The people that worked at the sites, the ballots, and the supplies for the sites. And I said, this could look that it was an attempt to influence the number of voting sites or our voting. And he said, no, that was not the case.
And the money was moved from our budget to fuel.
To the county fuel budget. And, they did say in an email, and he told me that if we needed more money, we could request additional funds. It would have to go on the Board of Commissioners agenda. The county manager would approve an item to go on the agenda. And then I would have to go ask the commissioners to allocate additional funds to our department.
How much did they in total?
It was 200,000 from our elections budget. Administration was not changed, which is like full-time staff, training.
200 out of what?
It was out of, it was 1,118,384,
So 20% or?
over 18%, yes.
You know, I mean, I am inclined to, whoever said maybe they're trying to influence for early voting, or we're not in a position to, hold elections entirely on election day, based on early voting numbers for the last however many cycles, where 80% of the votes are cast in early voting.
Right.
So if that was their intention, that's not even, I mean,
And the hours and the days are set by statute, the minimum hours and days. There was a bill, or there is a bill that's gone through the House to reduce the days of early voting, but that was not planned for this year. And it hasn't, I don't believe the Senate's taken that up yet either. So it's still 17 days, the November election.
so even if we wanted to reduce our expenses by cutting our early voting days, that's not an option. Neither is eliminating early voting to save money, because we can't handle that many voters in a single day.
What is the minimum number of early voting days we have to have?
It starts the third Thursday before, every weekday, and the last Saturday. So the last Saturday is 8 to 3, And then every weekday, if you open more than one site, more than the Board of Elections site, it's 8 until 7:30. We have to stay open until 7:30 on weekdays. And our office opens at 8, so
For the entire early voting period.
for the entire period. Every weekday,
Yeah,
And the
and if
last
we have
Saturday,
one
8 to
open, we
3.
have to have them all.
it's the board's choice which sites to open.
Are they basically equal in terms of dollar cost, or do you staff them more by? like
It's
the
staffed
library gets
more, it's staffed
people?
more by turnout. You know, we had the 9 sites in the primary, and that's what we had budgeted for, expecting or estimating that would probably be, as in the past, the same sites open in the general that were open in the primary. I don't believe we've ever had less in the general than the primary.
Like, I think you said, they're not telling us or telling you what their expectations are as to how you come about reducing by that amount. You got no feedback on that.
No, we did not, and they, supposedly it was based on our underspending or spending in the past. We did not see that, especially with the printing and office supplies. I know with the election officials, it had been split into different budget codes in the past, so that might have been a little confusing. And then another point, which thing I pointed out was, this last year, 26, we'll have funds to return that we didn't use because we didn't have a second primary and because the city of Monroe moved their elections. That was in the budget to open all the Monroe precincts. We didn't have to do that. So we had excess, in that election worker pay because we did not have city of Monroe election or a second primary. But
How
again,
much approximately would that have been? Do you have any idea?
For the second primary,
Yeah.
about 300,000.
And for the Monroe,
That was the total for both.
that's the total for both, it's 300. So we were to the good, $300,000, and so they apparently are using that as a vehicle to say we should reduce. I mean, I know we don't know, but that's seems to become apparent at some point.
Is there,
You don't get any benefit for being frugal and returning money, huh?
It's not a matter of frugality. I mean, you had to prepare for those potentials and they didn't happen or they changed. I mean, that was not foreseeable, that, change in the Monroe municipal race. That was after the budget was done. And, primaries, I mean, there's no crystal ball on that.
and the planning for an election is basically the same. You open all 54 precincts. The statutes state we have to have a chief judge, 2 party judges, 2 assistants at a minimum. So that's a minimum of 5 at a voting site. Early voting, those hours and days are mandated. We certainly cannot run out of printed ballots at a site. You don't know what turnout is at the state. With the previous director, they would tell us what percentage of the percentage of the number of registered voters. We had to order that number of printed ballots. Then blank ballot stock you have to have on hand as well, because you send that out to the different early voting sites. So you can't run out of ballots. You don't want long lines. You don't want to be short-staffed at your voting sites where the voter's in a long line. You don't want to be understaffed. You don't want, because the hours there, the election officials are there from 5:30 in the morning until after the polls close at 7:30. They're there all day. If they're understaffed, overworked, they're more likely to make a mistake. The voters are more likely to get frustrated and question the integrity of the election.
And you weren't able to present that to anybody, what you just said there.
No, sir.
Do we know, is it stopping at $200,000 or could that also change?
That could
Or
also
September?
change. That could also change. I mean, I don't see any reason it couldn't. If this changed, I don't see any reason it couldn't change again.
So if the county commissioners approve, our department's budget and we have that number, is that number able to change throughout the,
I can't answer that.
So, but there's no, like, we're not expecting any kind of like special election or, I mean, it's from now until next July, is that correct? So we just have the fall election and nobody does anything from January to July, right? We're not expecting.
No, I have a primary for
Municipal primaries. Primaries.
a municipal primary.
Oh, okay.
March? Yeah.
There you go, March.
Yeah, never stops, does it?
Year round, girl, year
And
round.
then you
And then we might end up having to have a second primary if the,
next year?
No,
No. Well, there's
No
no,
primary.
there's no municipal election next year.
there is, but it won't be until the fiscal year 28 in November.
So there, the other ones are not,
Partisan.
partisan,
They are
so
not.
there's no primary for them.
oh, okay.
Right. And back to your question, it was my understanding by statute that when the commissioners allocated that money to the Board of Elections, it was the board's discretion how to use those funds. But I haven't received an answer yet as to the amount that was legally allocated by the commissioners to our department. Other than this, the amounts that were put into our budget software.
So the percentage in total of our budget has been reduced.
Only the elections program, which was the 18%.
Is that the total of our total budget? Did we lose 18%? I mean,
Of the total budget, I believe it was 8 point something
So-
percent.
which you don't know.
We just split it into programs.
Was everybody losing 8%? Like,
Well, that was my question too. If every department lost 8%, that's a large amount of money.
and nobody's communicating anything.
I have not. I've discussed this with the manager and with the budget department and with our board.
Are they taking cuts too, the commissioners?
No, good question.
Well, do we even know if the commissioners know that the approved budget has changed?
I don't know.
Or departmental wise budgets?
Yes, I don't know the answer to that either.
Because we don't have what the departmental was.
No, I just read up the chain of command. Budget director and manager and our board.
And all this just broke basically Friday and yesterday, correct?
Well, it seems like it started after June 7th or thereabouts, or after,
July.
I'm sorry, July. After the budget was approved in
The budget
June.
was approved, it was imported into our software.
June 19th is when they emailed.
And after we received an email that the new budget had been imported, we could start using units again. I always go in there to make sure our numbers are correct. And that's when that was discovered. So we were not informed, we just happened to find out by ourselves.
So I guess we could go back and look at the minutes of the budget meeting with the county commissioner to find out if the proposed budget that we all had going in May was approved or not. Correct.
We've looked at the agenda item on the adoption, but it's more of a summary, wasn't it?
Yeah, they don't break it
A
down.
presentation and an overall summary. I don't think it was in detail. Department. Detail that. So it was overall summary.
So I guess it's, without question, the budget office knows what the department's budgets are at this point. And the number that we have is $200,000 less.
So we had 200,000 less than the proposed budget that was posted for the public hearing.
Which on an overall basis, you said was an 8% or thereabouts reduction, but on the line items, it was closer to 28, I think you said somebody said
We're,
18.
we're split between administration budget and elections budgets. So it was the elections budget that was affecting the
Got it.
administration budget.
And
So the elections budget has equipment delivery, the ballot printing, coding, the rental for the precincts. The precincts, our overflow parking leases.
Election stuff, the things you
Yeah,
need to have an
everything
election.
just specifically
Yeah,
related to
and then
the elections.
Licensing for the software. Yeah, things that are not optional.
These printers, we can only do 9 of 35.
Yes.
When you say they're at end of life, how long?
Purchased the equipment back in 2020, so that's when we started getting LED printers. Then we were informed that they were not going to be producing any toner for the LED printers. So we wanted to go ahead and start replacing what we have with the new printers, so we wouldn't end up not having printers to print ballots.
We need to have that large.
Well, don't worry,
That
you're probably not gonna have
We were
paper to
trying
put
to
them on, so
split.
it won't make
We were
any
trying
difference.
to phase it in over several years, so we wouldn't have to ask for a large enhancement amount to buy the total number of printers. We were trying to phase it in to have less of a hit for the budgets.
Well, it certainly is a concern for me, transparency-wise, that this wasn't discussed before this $200,000 or 18% of the elections budget was removed. The discussion wasn't had as to how we can reallocate our budget money to fuel for the county.
so the county overall hasn't reduced, they've just allocated from us to the fuel, is what you understand.
I don't know if any other departments were cut. I don't know if the budgets of any other departments were cut.
If it was just us, then it kind of seems like it's punitive, doesn't it? And they're trying to manipulate, reduce early voting is really what it seems like to me. I'm just gonna say that out loud. If it was just us, now, if it wasn't just the Board of Elections. I hope.
Department to have that happen to them either. I'm not certain if it is a attempt to reduce early voting, whether it's punitive, for the decision on that. But it doesn't seem very transparent to me that the only way we discovered that $200,000 was reduced is just because Ms. Race is very diligent in making sure our numbers are correct. So, I guess the question I would have is, where do we go from here? And I think we need to get answers as to what was approved by the county commissioners, the Board of County Commissioners, at the time they approved the budget. We need to get what those line items were, the department numbers were. if that was changed at the time of approval, was it changed before approval, what the timeline is, as you suggested. I want to find out if we're the only budget to do that, because then I would start questioning why it was done. Based upon some interactions we have had with the county and our funds.
Aren't we in, I mean, I really hate to say this, but worst case scenario, what about, of course, if it's punitive, we only exacerbated if we had to use the Freedom of Information Act, but hopefully it won't go that far, right? Right.
Well, right. I mean, I would hope that we wouldn't have to go that far, especially if we are providing, or being provided funds that were approved by the county commission. I just want to know what funds were approved by the county commission. And when that funds changed. Did
How
it
do
change?
we find that out?
Oh, I guess we're gonna have to find that out. I'll take a call or two and see if we can find that out. Again, the concern is that it gets changed again. If it's, if it was a number that was approved by the Board of Commissioners and that number changed after approval, I have significant concerns about that. I mean, that should not happen. The county commission approves what the budget numbers are, and then that's allocated, which is set by statute.
I don't think the county commissioners would take exception if the numbers they approved were changed after the fact, wouldn't, I mean,
I would hope so.
you got any connections over there? I don't, I promise. I am not in that, I'm not in that club.
Well, what I would suggest that, if we do, I think we need to reach out, and I will reach out to find out when I can get those numbers. I don't think we need to wait till September.
And I have asked those questions. Did not. Was not given an answer.
We'll see, two of us don't get an answer.
Hey, we need to know if we have to have a fundraiser for ballots, you know?
Or we need to know if we have to put in a request to the Board of Commissioners for additional funds. And maybe that's what we do right now, is we start preparing to put in a request to the Board of Commissioners for additional funds to secure the election, so that we don't have an issue with the election. We get it ready before November hits and early voting hits. And have it in front of the Board of Commissioners in September, October if we have to, for those additional funds. Last thing we need is to run out of paper or run out of ink if we don't have toner, and or run out of money to pay people sitting at the polling place. Those individuals sit there all day long,
And they're hard to find.
and they're very hard to find. And if
Yes.
you are not giving them some kind of supplement, it's gonna be even harder to find. I mean, you're not gonna find a volunteer to go sit from 7:30 to 7:30,
5:30
5:30 a.m.
a.m.
to
around 8:30 or 9.
8:30 at night out of the goodness of their heart.
A lot of people out there, John, the public actually think that those are volunteers. Now, they're not gonna volunteer to do that, okay? But they actually believe the people working the polls are volunteers.
Okay.
Crazy, huh?
Well, I really do appreciate you bringing it to our attention, because I think this is an important issue. For our election, our ability to conduct a fair and open election, I think, is potentially compromised if we're having funds reallocated without any kind of transparency before it gets reallocated. We go to write a check and find out that the bank account is empty. That's not what we want to do.
But we are, a very large county. We are like the 8th or 9th, in size in the state.
And only growing.
And growing, constantly growing.
And so far, we've done for the time that I've been active in elections in Union County, done an excellent job. So we want to be able to continue to do that and not have 2-hour waits and run out of ballots. I'm sorry, I'm laughing,
Looking back historically, we have added 2 precincts. We have added 2 early voting sites. So the number of voters the registered voters, eligible voters is increasing, but also our sites have increased too, and that's additional expenses.
And we haven't split up any more precincts, even though some of them maybe should be split up.
Right. Yes. We did not want to do that between the primary and the general, so that's something we'll be looking at next spring.
Next budget.
You know what, that's actually a good problem to have.
Yes, yes.
I mean, I think.
Well, and I think this office is run extremely well with all of you and all that you do. I think it's held out as an example of how a board of elections should be run, quite honestly. And I think we get a lot of praise from the state when we run, and asked by the state to maybe help and assist others in their boards. So it's very concerning to me. I'm gonna see what I can do to try to get some answers for you all and for the board. And we can discuss it, not as a full board, obviously. We'll have to wait till the next meeting to do that, but if we have to call a special meeting, call a special meeting.
Can you keep us updated
Yes.
if we?
Yes, and then I'll probably keep it all transparent, right? Anything that I'm gonna do is gonna be out to everybody, so. It just concerns me that after we put in these numbers, thinking we had these numbers, they're now changed, so.
Yeah, I guess we were sitting with, we think it was approved, but then all of a sudden, we get a different number back when you're setting up the budget and the system and stuff, it doesn't work. It would seem to me like what you're suggesting, Mr. Chairman, is makes sense. At the same time, all the points that have been made, if we could bulletize those items so that the chairman has those available too. I mean, the Oki printer ink, you can't buy it anymore, and we gotta get rid of the Oki printers. And there's the other justification, we got 8.5 by, we're gonna have more paper, longer paper this time than we typically have because of all the extra things that are on the ballot. All those things contribute to, as well as you cited off a number of other things, cited off. And do we, for instance, the paper, focusing on that, is there a vendor that's selected by the state that we have to follow?
Yeah,
See, stuff like that,
The ballot printers have to be certified by the state.
Yeah.
And we use the ARC printer, since we have ARC equipment, to make sure that system runs.
But all those things, I think it would be good to have listed in ballot form, a bullet form, to be able to demonstrate to them. And but at the same time, because I think it's important to try to find out what happened in the middle of all this thing. We thought we were approved, and all of a sudden we got a reduction, and a fairly substantial reduction. I mean, 1 or 2%, but 8% or 18% if you want to take it to the other line, that's a lot.
But these are not new commissioners, are they? They've been following the budget along, doing all the other elections, so
Right.
what's new about this?
I mean, we have a great relationship with the commissioners. We always have. We're one of the first departments they first interact with when they come in to file to run for office. So we've never had any issues or we've always had a great relationship with them.
That's why you have to wonder whether it was at their level, it seemed to have been approved at a different level. And somehow, they were short on fuel allocation, so where are we gonna get it? I mean, that's what it looks like. The,
And again, countywide, that may not seem like a lot, but it is a lot for our group.
and the lady that spoke out, I mean, it's one of these things that you don't wanna have. Elections are under suspicion anyway. You know, your example of, you want people showing up and we don't have paper.
You want to be on CNN and MSNBC and everybody else. That's the way you do it. Run out of ballots.
There's certain things we can't afford for elections in general to have happen. And I've read about situations where they didn't have enough ballots and stuff like that, and that doesn't go down very well. But I think if you put all these items maybe in some kind of format, at the same time, I would support trying to go find out what happened between the approval and the reallocation, or whatever you want to call it. So do you need a motion from any of us to effectuate what I just said, or?
I don't think so at this point. I mean, I could take a vote, but, I mean, I can put a vote on the table for me to make some calls and ask questions, but I don't really know if that's
Okay.
a motion, but
As long as you're satisfied with that, that's,
yeah, I mean, I don't think I need, any one of us can reach out and contact the budget office.
I can't.
No?
I'm not part of the club.
No.
You're part of the club.
I don't know what club, I didn't get a card. I didn't get a membership card.
Chris did it.
I'm
What's
gonna
that?
go too.
Yeah, I think it'd be more effective if you called.
Yeah,
No.
that's fine. Yeah, so I'll reach out to them.
The first round anyway.
Yeah, and see what I can find out, and, you know, I'll provide answers to you all of what I know. And make this as transparent as possible as to what I find out, so everybody knows.
Sounds like a plan to me.
Alright.
Item 2 on meeting, so we can find out what the shortfall is, then you can tell us why the cuts were done.
That's not a bad idea. When we come to the meeting and provide that information. Alright, any more questions for Ms. Holloway?
Regarding the budget cuts. No, I'm sure we're gonna have more questions from Ms. Holloway.
I'm sure. Alright, well, I don't know if there's anything to improve on the budget cuts, but we're not gonna go that direction, alright, so. Thank you for that unfortunate update. On to early voting, November 3rd, general election. Candace.
Alrighty, so I've given y'all a small packet there. On the top, you've got what options you're going to be voting on. As previously stated, the minimum requirements for any Board of Elections in the state of North Carolina is to open your office from 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. Monday to Friday, and last Saturday, 8 to 3. But that's if you have only one site open. I don't know of any counties in the state of North Carolina that do that. We have our options here that we've used in the past. They are not early voting sites until the board votes on them, and that makes them an early voting site. Then we've broken it into Monday to Friday hours. If you open more than our office, your minimum requirement is 8 a.m. to 7:30 p.m. And then it moves on to the Saturday. It has a little checkbox next to the last Saturday because that is state requirement. That's law. So there's no changes to that one. And then Sunday. So whenever the board starts to discuss it, if y'all want to hit the top part, vote on the sites first and then move on down to try to keep the thoughts organized maybe. If y'all have any questions about any of the previous information y'all have already seen. The packet pretty much just includes stuff you've had in the past couple of meetings.
And then, I guess a reminder to the board that if there is not a unanimous agreement as to the early voting options, it would go into the state board, and we will have to have one member from the Republican side and one member from the Democrat side trying to rally to appear in front of the board to discuss the reasons why there is a non-unanimous vote, correct?
Yes, a person, a member that represents each proposed plan.
When would
So
that
it's
be?
not
Oh, so it's just each proposed plan, it doesn't have to be necessarily party related.
true. They haven't given a date yet of when they'll hear. I know the deadline for counties to submit is July 24th, but we don't know yet what date, what state board meeting that will be on the agenda.
So when does the state board typically meet? We don't know the schedule. Okay,
Yeah, I don't know their
Our deadline is the
schedule, and they-
24th.
And they have, special meetings, and as business arises, they meet more frequently.
okay.
All right, well, I guess the first item on this early voting options is to determine how many sites we shall have open. And I open it up to the board for any comments or suggestions as to how many sites previously we had. In this last primary, we had the 9 sites.
And they're listed, those 9 sites are listed here, that we've been in this past election. In prior elections, we've had 5, 7, and now we've moved up to, the board's moved us up to 9 sites to try to expand the area. The main goal is to take the pressure off of election day sites, so that if we have a location in the areas that are overpopulated for election day voting, it sort of reduces the lines out there on election day, so we don't have the hours and hours of waits. The most recent ones that were added were the Waxhaw Recreation Facility, the barn, and the Fairview Town Hall up 601 to try to get some help out towards Unionville area, New Salem, everything on that upper side.
Just out of curiosity, did anybody read the email that was forwarded from someone in the community regarding suggestions for additional early voting sites? Which I don't know that we're in a position to implement those right now, but.
What about New Salem? Early voting sites are not held in the facilities they suggested, which were schools. Early voting sites are not in the actual school systems at this point. They
Okay.
are in tax maintained buildings. Utah Church is used across from that New Salem Elementary School
Mhm.
as an election day site. So it's right there near the corner where the roundabout is on 218 and 205.
Okay,
So there's a facility right there on election day. I don't know what election day turnout is for that site, but I don't believe it's going to be a viable option for early voting.
I thought about that with the school, like that would be,
Yeah, Pickens are slim out when you get out that way. We don't have a lot of community centers and things like that. We also, early voting, we don't have any churches that we're in because of the tax maintained facility requirement in the law.
okay. Thank you.
Yes, I heard that email as well.
I would love to be able to open up additional sites, but obviously it's not a,
Well, yeah, and I agree that the more sites we can get open takes off the pressure on election day. But, I don't want to do it at extra cost. And we're gonna get 4 people voting at a site we opened. Doesn't make much sense to have 5 people staffed at that site to do it. But,
I agree.
what do we say? I guess we can either make a determination, if there's a motion to approve those 9 that are listed and go with those 9. If there's, a conversation about removing or adding to those 9, whatever the pleasure of the board is.
But I voted that we approve those 9.
I'll second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? We have those 9 sites. Having those 9, I guess, to kind of close the loop, was there any desire to have any additional sites at this time? All right, hearing none, I will take that as a negative, that there is no proposed additional sites at this time. Not that we won't look at doing additional sites in the next fiscal year, but that's kind of where we're gonna be at. All right, so we have the 9 sites that we used in the primary election for 2026, so we're just gonna go with that. Now on to board may add additional hours beyond those required by law, Monday through Friday. Do we want to add any additional time to Monday through Friday? Other,
The little check is the minimum requirement, just
add additional time other than 8 AM to 7:30 PM. That's 11 and a half hours for people to go vote. I think that even if you're working in Charlotte, you certainly will hopefully be able to get back by 7:30 at night.
Well,
When I tried a couple times when I was up there to get back before 7:30,
I
never
was gonna
always
say
worked.
not necessarily.
So in my experience going around and observing at different sites and stuff, I mean, the traffic at that time of night, at like 7:30 is next to nothing. There's very few people. I wouldn't recommend adding any more hours to that because people just, they drop by on the way home from work and they're done.
So is it, we have to have 11 and a half hours, or we have to have at least from 8 to 7:30? Like, could you go from 7 to,
8 to 7:30 is the requirement. You should have a printout in here that tells you that it's by statute that it has to be that timeframe. So it says if you open any site other than just your main site, the hours then kick into the 8 to 7:30. It says all early voting sites must be open every weekday during the early voting period from 8 AM to 7:30 PM. And this is what I'm looking at. You should have it in that little packet I give you.
Yeah.
He's got it. Okay.
what time do you open on election day?
6:30 AM, but workers are there at 5:30 AM.
Any discussion on this 8 to 7:30 PM?
I'm gonna throw this out there. I can't imagine we can't reduce the hours. I can't imagine adding additional hours when we're already having problems getting people to work. That's just my thoughts.
It's kind of hard to add hours of things because we don't know the turnout. We got new subdivisions coming up all around, new people moving here. I mean, right now, this should stand as it is, and later in the regular election, maybe you'll see what numbers we're working with if you want to make a change or add, or take away.
For the 28, when we get, yeah.
You're working against numbers you don't have.
I'll put forth the motion that we go from 8 AM to 7:30 PM, Monday through Friday.
We have a motion on the floor. Do I have a second?
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All right, we got our dates. Next item is Saturdays. Board may add additional hours beyond those required by law. We have to have it the last Saturday before election, which is October 31st, from 8 a.m. to 3 p.m. Halloween. So,
That'd be great.
all right.
Turtle or something.
Alright, so, in the past, what do we do, well, I mean, as far as the days went?
Varies from year to year what the board decides on, however, whatever the board votes on, but we've had one Saturday, we've had 2 Saturdays, and then we've had 3 Saturdays. Typically have 3 Saturdays, definitely in the presidential, but previously I believe we had 2 Saturdays.
And this, October 17th would be the first Saturday in political week.
Presidential Saturdays.
Get more people early,
Get them the most, the
Then it
highest
tails
turnouts
off, then
on
it tails
first
off,
and
and
the
then-
last.
then it comes back up. That's been my experience. So if we were gonna approve an additional Saturday, it would be the first one, I would suggest. That's up to me.
And we can make up our own hours for that day, right?
Outside of the last Saturday, you definitely could.
So, I guess the choice for the board is, do we look at opening October 17th and adjusting the hours, either smaller or whatever the board wants to do? I'm of the opinion that we open up on October 17th, just seems to be general.
To avoid confusion, I would suggest the same hours as the 31st.
How would that affect the budget?
Yeah.
Right.
Well,
That's the question, we have that, in the background, right, we got that looming in the background, of $200,000, that's. So. But we can always go in front of the Board of Commissioners to ask for more money before how long it takes for them to vote on it and get us the money in the fund.
Well, we got some numbers a couple meetings ago, and which had to do with it, which basically all we're covering on. The only additional thing, if we had additional days, is salaries, wages. And, I think we had, but it wasn't a huge number is what I'm trying to say for a single day of early voting. That's what I was trying to get around to.
Well, if we open one, we have to open them all, so.
That is correct. So if you're wanting, you can't just open 2 or 5 out of the 9. You have to open all 9 for the same days. So whatever days y'all choose, it has to be all 9.
Looking at historical numbers. Obviously during the week is your prime voting days, the majority, and then your Saturdays and Sundays are less.
Yeah, your highest turnout is always gonna be that first tiny week, the Thursday, Fridays, and then Saturday. And then the second week, it falls off at the beginning, picks up, but the second Saturday is doesn't have quite a highest turnout as the first and last. Because it really picks up at the end because you've got people, the early birds and the procrastinators.
But then those are also shorter hours. I mean,
There are shorter hours, it's only 8 to 3, so staff would be there 7 to 4 at each
so
site.
you would expect lower turnout on a day that had reduced hours, is what I'm trying to say. It more,
Yeah, but if you divide it out hour to hour, the middle Saturday is lower. Not that I'm saying
I
it's
understand
not
what you're saying.
due Saturday, but it's the
Um,
lower Saturday.
It's like 2022, the second Saturday was actually
The bigger,
more votes.
it
So
was,
22, it's just gonna ebb and flow depending on how the political climate is too, and we're just getting out there. If you've got the people that are, that get out to vote, where you meet up and have people march to the polls, we've had that before. And it varies between Saturdays and Sundays. They normally do that on the weekend, not during Monday to Friday. So I can't tell you specifically if that's what happened on that Saturday. The only thing I can tell you is we had 29% turnout in 22, 32% turnout for early voting in 18, and estimating about 30 for this go round. Our registered voters is at 184, and then 22 is at 169-ish. Depending on what numbers they use, this is based off the month I pulled right before early voting started.
What you just said, was that for the first Saturday?
No, 169,000 overall, the turnout.
For which election?
November 2022, we've got a total registered voters of around 169,000. Early voting turnout was 49,167, which is 29%. And in 2018, there was a higher turnout of 32% for early voting at 49,797. An estimate of 30% for this upcoming election is 55,417.
We anticipate the library here being busy because we're losing to be going.
Yes, so we should have more this fall than we would have previously. So we don't have any historical data on that because Monroe was separate before this year.
The only thing I know is I think I would rather we use, but we won't go Saturdays, but that's me. But I do think we should stick with that 8 to 3 just to avoid voter confusion. I'm just saying personally, when I would look at the flyers of the hours, it was, when I would confuse me. You know, I'd have people going, well, when can I go vote? And I'm like, well, let me look, what day are you going? You know what I'm saying? It depends on what day you go, anyhow, those are my thoughts.
Well, do I hear a motion to approve opening on October 17th, 2026 from 8 to 3?
So moved.
Got a motion, do I have a second?
I'll second.
Got a second, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
17. Is there any motion to open on October 24th, 2026?
I'm on Sunday, I'm gonna hold out for Sunday.
Can we amend our hours if we find out that the budget, is better than we think? Like we wanted to add that Saturday in.
The deadline is the 24th. Subject to the state's
Friday.
Well, they're kind of unanimous on the sites.
What was 2020? What was the midterms? Did we open 3 Saturdays midterms in 22?
22, I believe so.
We opened 2 Saturdays in the primary, the last 2 Saturdays. And sometimes we've opened 3. I don't think we've ever opened the first and the last.
I think that's
Close in
real
the middle,
confusing
close
too.
in the middle. I don't recall that.
I think that's confusing.
Yeah, I would rather see all 3 Saturdays.
Okay, so somebody's gonna make a motion that we also open on Saturday, the 24th. I'll make that motion. Wasn't that what you were just asking for?
Sure.
Okay.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
All right, open on October 24th, 2026, 8 to 3. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
It's unanimous. All right, we'll be open the 3 Saturdays. All right, board may add additional hours beyond those required by law, we're looking at Sundays now. We're looking at Sunday, October 18th and Sunday, October 25th. Do I have a discussion?
I'm in favor of at least one Sunday. I know there are concerns about turnout, but I actually looked, and when you figure Sunday voting is 4 hours versus 11 hours, you would expect, if you had the same number of voters show up on a Sunday as you do on a weekday with an 11.5 hour schedule, the polls would be swamped and overwhelmed. So I support at least one Sunday, because I want everybody to have the option to vote. And I realize full well that there are a lot of people who don't, unless they've got somebody to look out for the kids, or drive them there, or whatever it may be. One Sunday.
I think, people need a day of rest, the workers. Because, you know, that's pretty long cumulative hours, that you're putting in. And if we're already covering Saturday, plus the weekdays, I would think that there's plenty of opportunity to vote. That's my view, without doing Sundays.
I'm with Frank. I mean, it's a very long, if they had cut the number of actual days down, I think, to a shorter voting period, then maybe we consider Sunday. But I mean, there's plenty of days to vote.
Are all
Oh,
employees
Saturdays.
obligated to vote, to work the entire, I mean, is that the policy that they do?
Well, the problem is other people, when you say, okay, this would include working Sundays, and that's a deal breaker for a lot of people. So,
Well, again, we have to have all 9 open.
But we could do one Sunday.
Drop a Saturday and pick up a Sunday.
I mean, I would go for that, drop a Saturday, pick up a Sunday. I would rather, if we were gonna do that, I said, I think that would be a good, that would be a compromise, give them a Saturday off, and
Do you have people to cover for Sundays? We don't know. Do we have?
we don't know.
it's always a deal breaker, when you're asking people, and it includes Sundays, we have some great people that work for us, and, but it's harder to find, the numbers that we need if you say Sunday voting.
I was saying, I think it's 3 Saturdays in a row too, even though they're getting paid for it, but some people have plans. They not wanna do all of it.
I would rather give up the Saturday and have one Sunday for those people who literally cannot get there Monday through Saturday. And there are people in that position.
Entertain a motion.
I motion we give up one Saturday and add one Sunday with hours of 1 to 5.
Okay, we try just one time to see how it go and then base it on that, as far as continuing it in another election. If it doesn't work out, then we know it didn't work out. We don't know if you don't try.
What I would think that we would do, like the first weekend, Saturday and Sunday. And then, I mean, wouldn't that make more sense, or do you want to, would we?
It's not about me, it's just the thing that I'm looking at, you got 2 consecutive Saturdays, run them, and then just do the Sunday to eliminate the 31st. Or if you wanna keep the 31st.
31st is
If you
required.
take away the
Yeah,
31st,
yeah.
that's required, 31st is.
Okay.
There's a motion on the table to add a Sunday
In lieu of a Saturday.
in lieu of a Saturday. So, there's a motion on the table. Is there a second to that?
how does it affect you all work schedule? How does it, do you all work during that time too?
Yeah, the office staff works those days.
That's my point earlier. You gotta give people a day off. In the front, not, I mean, these folks as well as the workers in the.
Well, they got a choice, because they're like volunteer, choosing to do it, but, I mean, it's give or take in everything, but try it, like I said, if it don't work out, it don't work out.
So we have a motion to add a Sunday, remove a Saturday. Is there a second to that motion? Okay, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Hey,
Nay. Ayes have it. And, so is there a motion to add, I guess that's it, right? I mean.
I think we need to specify, if we're gonna go to Raleigh, we need to specify which Saturday we wanna drop and which Sunday we wanna add.
Okay,
And I would say, for practical purposes, I would rather drop the 24th and add the 25th. So that way the employees get a day off, they get their one day off a week, they would have the Saturday off, and then we still have a day of Sunday voting.
okay, so, is that a formal amendment to your motion to drop, Saturday, October 24th and add the 25th?
Yes, that is a formal amendment.
Okay, do I have a second to that amendment?
Um,
I have a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
hey,
Nay.
Okay. Yeah, that way, I mean, employees would still get a day off. A Saturday.
I just think it's gonna be totally confusing if you open up one Saturday and then take off a day and then open another Saturday.
Well, but then we're still gonna be open, we would still be open the two busiest Saturdays and give,
Well, I get you there, but I think it's just gonna be confusing to the voters to have a Saturday off. That's my view.
then if they get confused, they still have the very last one on the 31st.
All right,
Well, do you want people showing up and getting mad?
let's,
Getting mad because
They get mad at
we're not open?
all right,
I've been in those precincts and you get somebody that's upset about something that you don't wanna be the lead person in there like I was a number of times.
so I think we've reached
We'll submit both plans to the state.
no plan gets to this state, we'll have to get a date
It's on their agenda.
for one of each side of the plan to go to Raleigh to appear in front of the board, state board. And, so that way it'll give us a date that I'm assuming they'll give us a notice. All right, thank you. All right, moving on to staff reports, director's report.
Yes, the Soil and Water Conservation District Supervisor filing ended on July 6th. There are 2 seats available and 2 candidates, Wayne Moser and Taylor Moyer, filed their notice of candidacy. Since this is a nonpartisan contest, write-ins are allowed for that seat. New party petitions in the state of North Carolina for a new political party. The Constitution Party has indicated its desire to participate in the 2028 election, so they are revamping up. And we've been processing signatures for the North Carolina Forward Party. The ballot, I said that we had 23 contests. Some of those are splits, like school, Board of Education, and then Monroe City. So all 323 won't be on every ballot. But there are 3 constitutional amendments as well. The first to require photo ID for voting. And that is, the wording of that is a constitutional amendment to require all voters, not just those presenting to vote in person, to present photo ID before voting. You know, there was some gray area about overseas voters or by mail voters showing ID. So this is a constitutional amendment to require photo ID. There's one for maximum income tax rate of 3.5%. And an amendment requiring limits on property tax increases by local governments. And Angela's retirement party, the board recognized her earlier. Her party will be at noon in this room on July 21st, and the board's invited to attend. We'll have lunch and visit, socialize. And mark all your calendars. Canvas for this election is at 11 a.m. on November 13th, and we know all board members have to attend Canvas.
Okay, give me the date of Angela's party one more time.
It's the 21st, next Tuesday
Mhm.
at noon.
Okay. All right, and then the other thing
And
was
then
Canvas
Will
is,
be the November 13th at 11 a.m. And later we'll meet and let the board decide, set the time for the absentee meetings. We'll do that at a later date. We still have some time.
So with that photo ID amendment, that doesn't obviously apply to this election, but going forward, when we get those absentee ballots in, it's gotta come with an ID? Is that what happens?
I don't know how this will be interpreted by the state board, but if it passes, they'll certainly send us guidance.
Because before it was 2 signatures or a notary. That's what's required.
I don't think that will change. I think it's just
Do they have
to make
sign?
sure the photo ID is also included.
We've had that, right? I mean, Union County has implemented that,
We,
and maybe the state for all that.
yeah, they have required that. I think they're just changing,
To
just
a
add,
make
to
it a
add that to the Constitution.
Constitution.
Yeah, y'all had that in the last election.
will they still be able to complete under the ID exception? Or, we don't know.
I don't think it would change that,
Okay.
not positively.
Did have a question, but this is probably the appropriate segment of the, we got the thing about the 34,000 deceased voters on the rolls. Are we gonna discuss that this evening or?
We evidently, the law does not address that particularly.
Mhm.
Like right now, it tells us we can remove voters, deceased voters, just from certain sources.
Mhm.
So they would have to change, my understanding, change the statute to allow that information from Social Security or the SAVE Act, however they obtained it, to be a legitimate source for us to remove those deceased voters.
Did we have any indication that we actually had any deceased voters vote in Union County other than the 2 we were aware of last cycle where we?
We do not. We don't have a list of the names. We only had the number. And it said some of those had already been removed. But the way it stands right now, if a person lives in the county and say goes to Rock Hill, let's say Rock Hill, South Carolina, and passes away in that hospital, South Carolina doesn't share those death certificates with us. So this would kind of enlarge that area through Social Security Administration, where if someone passed away, no matter what area they passed away, we would receive notification based on that Social
What
Security.
happens now if it's like Mecklenburg?
The state of North Carolina,
We get
yes.
notification.
If it's the state of North Carolina, Department of Health and Human Services, we receive their report.
I'm just surprised by the number. With having these other sources that have been used,
But, if somebody may move away and not cancel their registration here. That's happened too.
That happens a
And they're
lot.
still, yeah, they move away, don't cancel it, and then, you know, they may later pass away too, and they still haven't been through that process here where you've gone inactive and then you're removed, so it's still in that time frame.
That was helpful, thank you.
Yeah, we're ready to take those off if we can get permission.
Sure.
Permission and the data, we're ready.
I think it's probably a little harder for somebody to vote and impersonate a deceased person than a lot of people think, but that's just mine. Okay, thank you for sharing that.
So all I have.
Thank you, Ms. Holloway. Voter registration, Ms. Meadows.
Yes, I will be presenting the June, voter registration report. As of June the 30th, we had a total of 184,555 registrations. 21,436 were inactive. 163,119 were active. Registrations removed were 867. Approved, 867. Total registrations removed for June was 462. Out of those, 87 were inactive registrations. New registrations processed was 945. Duplicate registrations, meaning that there were no changes to the registrations, were processed 600. Changes of information for June were 634 that were processed. Verifications, 1,465 first and second verification mailings were sent. 19 first verifications returned undeliverable. 21 verifications were returned by the voter. Confirmations, 4 confirmations were returned by the voter. 11 confirmations were sent. 6 confirmations were returned undeliverable, and 7 confirmations were not returned at all. The next sections are the stats by party, by race, by ethnicity, and by gender. Party changes, we had 227 party changes for the month of June. The graph is there for you. We have the stats, voter registration stats are there for your review. We are growing. We've gained 436 registrations since our last meeting. National change of address, I didn't have a report this time, but we mailed out 1,522 national change or NCOA balance on July 1st. So I'll already start reporting that again next week.
Thank you.
Any questions?
Any questions for Ms. Meadows? We also have the budget in there, Ms. Reed. We discussed the budget quite extensively. I'm not sure if you want to.
I mean, I'm okay.
And the budget discussion for the June 30th.
So this is for fiscal year 26. The report that we have does not include any charges, any items that were purchased using the part of the purchase card. Those will not be deducted until this month, later this month. So the ending balance as of June 30th for the administration budget is, we have 20,874 left in that budget. And the elections budget, we did use 68% of the budget. Now, I know that sounds like We have a lot of money left in that elections budget, but it is, the majority of that is from the salaries for the part-time employees, the seasonal employees, and that, those funds support for, the second primary election. If we have to have that, we would use those funds then. And also for, the Monroe election that we did back in November. So those funds were still there.
That gets rolled back to the county.
Yes, it gets rolled over so that we can hopefully still get a truck and any other enhancements they might have.
So that's where the truck is gonna come out as, of those funds?
That's what they had said, they were gonna roll those over to this fiscal year for those purchases. I mean, for that one purchase and the two other.
And when we're talking about the truck, Philip, what were we talking about?
Probably like a F-250, extended cab with a camper shell and a pull-out so that it can be used for other things besides just pulling the trailer. It would be used during other periods as well, because right now we only have one vehicle, and every election cycle we have to get other vehicles from the county garage, and sometimes they're a little hard to get, so we usually get 2 other vehicles from the county garage. So we need a second vehicle anyway, and a truck would really come in handy for us. We move stuff, logistics all around the county, so it's needed.
Help pull that trailer, that's the emergency voting trailer.
It is the trailer that we use in the event that we lost a polling place without enough notice to move them to another polling place, move the voters to another polling place. We keep them on site or somewhere close by them so that voting would be as uninterrupted as possible.
How decked out is the trailer at this point?
It's pretty ready to go. We have a tent that goes with it. We purchased a 13 by 26 canopy, a pop-up tent with walls, with sidewalls and lights. And that with the trailer should allow us to, respond to any emergency situations where we needed to vote outside of a specific building and carry on.
It's impressive.
Part of our continuity of operations or emergency response.
Sure.
Do any other counties in North Carolina have anything like that?
Not that I'm aware. Not that I'm aware. There is a company that you can rent something like that from, but I don't know what the price of that is, and the availability of that's probably pretty slim. There's only one of them around, so.
Oh, yeah, try arranging an emergency,
Right.
polling place during an actual emergency.
And something like, and the other thing is, we'll have ours ready to go the night before the election. So if something does happen, we can roll it out within short notice and get it there. If you had something that you had to rent from a vendor or get assistance from another department, you're not going to have that kind of response. It's going to take some time, and time is critical when you're responding to these type of things.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Riggs. Any other? Anything else?
That's it.
Thank you, Phil. All right, is there anything else for the good of the order? Hearing none, may I please have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All right, thank you, Seth.
Take your phones back off of,
Do not disturb, yeah.